Hey y'all, today we're doing 10 seasoning blends. So first up, we are doing taco seasoning. So a lot of y'all had asked for like the homemade blends that I use when I say I made this or whatever. So all 10 of the ones that I use are going to be in this video. Now I do plan on making more in the future, and I will share that with y'all when that happens. So for right now, we're doing our taco seasoning. What I'm adding to my bowl is 4 tablespoons of chili powder. Then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Use whatever kind of anti-caking thickening agent you want to use. If you want to use arrowroot or whatever, that'll be fine. But you need 2 tablespoons of it, okay? So add that right into your bowl, and I don't dump this stuff in a jar and shake it up. I always mix mine in a bowl just to make sure it's all good and mixed. But you can do yours however you want to. So now I'm adding in here 2 tablespoons of cumin. And these, y'all, I want to just say, like, this is how I make mine. So if you don't like as much of something or you want to add more of something, just adjust it to your seasoning. To your taste. This is just the way that I like mine. So what I'm adding now is 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika. You can use regular paprika if you want to. Either one will work just fine. So then I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt. And the recipes will be in the description box with y'all, along with how much you need to use. If that is something that you need to know, it'll all be in the description box for y'all. So now I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of garlic powder or onion powder, and then I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. 2 teaspoons garlic and onion, okay? And then I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of oregano. And then I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of pepper. And again, you can change these if you, we're going to add some cayenne too. So if you don't like that, you don't have to put it in there. If you like more of a kick, then you can absolutely add more, whatever suits your family. The last thing I'm going to add in there is a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne, because y'all know I don't do a lot of heat, so you can definitely adjust that and add more if you want to. Now, one thing you will notice when I mix this up is that my taco seasoning is dark. It doesn't look like what you buy at the store, because you know what you buy at the store is more of an orange color. But remember I said we used smoked paprika instead of regular paprika. Now, regular paprika, I'm going to show y'all in just a minute. We'll talk about it. I'm going to show y'all. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to store these. I'm out of jars. You know, it was Christmas and I gave a lot of gifts, so I've got to get me some more jars. But for now, I have these. These are like freezer containers. I get them off of Amazon. I will link them down below for y'all. The majority of these will go into one of these 1-cup containers, but I do have a couple that I put into the 2-cup containers. So I will link both if y'all are looking for these or wondering which ones I use. So I'm also, of course, going to label this. Now, this is what I was going to show you. See the difference in the smoked paprika and the regular paprika? So if you use regular paprika, then your mix will be more of an orangey color and not so much of this darker brown color. So that's just, I just want to let y'all know that. So, because if you just didn't realize there was a difference in smoked and regular paprika, I didn't want you to think that you had done something wrong if yours doesn't look like mine. You know, does that make sense? So now I'm going to label them, of course, because we're making a lot of these, and I want to make sure that I know what is in each one of my containers. And then I'm just going to stick it up in the cabinet, and I will have taco seasoning whenever I want it. Super, super simple, y'all. Very, very easy, and it's delicious. So next up, we're doing some au jus mix. Now, this is something that I use a lot of times if I'm making like a roast or something. So that's why I felt like I needed to add this one in here. So what I'm adding is 4 tablespoons of beef bouillon. You use whatever kind of bouillon your little heart desires. I'm using the Knorr. That's what I have. Obviously, I have gigantic containers, so I'm going to use what I have, y'all. Then we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. And for this particular recipe, the reason that we're adding the cornstarch, number one, it's an anti-caking agent, right? So it's going to keep it from clumping up as it's, you know, in your cabinet when you're storing it, because I am making a good bit of this. And this is going to help that, like, when you make the mix up, it's going to kind of make it shiny instead of just like beef flavored water. Does that make sense? It's going to give it a little substance. You know, it's going to give it a little substance. So the next thing I added was 4 teaspoons of onion powder. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of parsley. And somebody had commented on one of my other videos that parsley doesn't taste like anything. Like, why do I use it? But parsley does have flavor. If you don't know, just go chew you some dried parsley and you'll see what the flavor is. It's not as, like with any other dried herb, it's not as, it's milder than the fresh stuff, but it does still have flavor. So then I added in 2 teaspoons of garlic powder and about 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Now for this one, if you ever get like the au jus mix in the packets from the store, it's really powdery. So since I had like the paprika and stuff in here, I wanted to go ahead and run this through my blender just so it's nice and smooth, just like, you know, the stuff you buy. And when I put it in there, y'all, I realized I really wanted some more, so I ended up doubling the recipe. You don't have to do that. But I am going to give you the measurements for one, you know, like for the first part that you saw. And I did start out putting this into a 1-cup container, but it really was too much. So I swapped it over to a bigger container. Put it in whatever you want that'll seal airtight. It does not, you don't have to use these. I said I would link them in that way because some people ask me about them, but you can see whatever seals up, you can use. So that is our au jus mix, y'all. Super simple. So now we're going to do our chili seasoning mix. Now, if you've seen my chili video, it is one of the first videos that was on my channel. The audio is terrible, y'all. But anyway, it's still a good recipe. Even though I was still a young YouTuber and had no idea what I was doing, the recipe is still 100% delicious. So what I'm adding in here is a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. That's my homemade brown sugar. You can use whatever kind of brown sugar you want. I actually made my nephew some because he does keto. I made him some with the Swerve brown sugar. So what did I say? What did I say? A 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And then I'm doing 6 tablespoons of chili powder. And the reason that I didn't do like a 1/4 cup and then add some is because at the last minute I decided to double this. But I will put what I'm actually doing in the recipe. So you're going to get the doubled version of this, okay? So now I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. And you can, again, use regular paprika if you want to. Then I'm going to add in a teaspoon of onion powder. And look, I was like, am I doubling it? What am I doing? What is happening here? And then you're going to add in a teaspoon of garlic powder or granulated onion and garlic, whichever one you have. You know, I say one, the other one's on the bottle. Somebody will mention it, but you need a teaspoon. All right. And then I'm adding a teaspoon of cumin. Then we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then about a teaspoonish of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So that's what I'm going to add into mine. And this is going to be in the description box on the recipe for y'all. But this amount will get you 2 cookings of chili. So you see me making different amounts of stuff, and the reason for that is I make more of the stuff I use more often and less of the stuff that I don't use as often. So do the same for your kitchen. If you think, well, I'm only going to make chili one time, then don't double the recipe. You know what I mean? You can do it however you want to do it. You can half these, you can quadruple them, whatever you need that fits your family. That's what you do. It's very, very easy. That's why the homemade is so good. And if you don't do a lot of salt, you can absolutely adjust that in every single one of these seasoning mixes, okay? So that is our chili seasoning, y'all. Now we're good to go for winter. Next up, we're going to do some fajita seasoning. Now, I've done my fajita seasoning on the channel before, but not as a video. I actually did it in a video. And I think I may have just told y'all what was in it. I'm not sure if I actually made it up. But anyway, I mean, like, fixed it, you know. But I used it for my fajitas in a recipe in a video. So anyway, I thought I would show y'all how I made it. So for the fajita, y'all, I cannot talk tonight. The fajita seasoning, I did 4 teaspoons of chili powder and then 2 teaspoons of cumin. Then we're going to do a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And we're going to do 2 teaspoons of sugar. If you don't want to put sugar in it, leave it out. If you want to do a sugar alternative, you can certainly do that. Whatever works for you will be just fine. Then you're going to add in about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Then we're going to add in, I was trying to make it pretty, all the little layers. Y'all see what I'm doing. So then I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika or regular paprika. Again, either one you have will work just fine. Then you're going to add in a teaspoon of oregano and a teaspoon each of garlic powder and onion powder. And that is how I make my fajita seasoning. This little batch is, this will make either a very large batch of fajitas, or you can use half of this and make just like a regular, you know, if you're making just like a regular size batch of fajitas. You know, you can adjust it to however much you need. But that's how I use it. So that will be in the description box on the recipe, how I use it, but you can absolutely adjust everything to how you need it to be. Now, the first 6 of these recipes are ones you haven't seen on my channel before. The last 4 you have, but since I was doing so many of these, I wanted to put those 4 on this video as well, so that you will have all of my seasoning blends, the current seasoning blends, you'll have those all right here together. So it'll be easy if you're looking for them. You don't have to hunt for them. You can just find the seasoning blend video and you'll be good to go. Now, this was a little bit not enough for this size container, but these are what I had out, so that's what I used. But anyway, now we have some fajita seasoning in the cabinet. So next up, we are going to do seasoned salt. And there's a lot of different recipes on how to do all of these seasoning blends, but this is just how I do mine. Now, you do need a lot of salt because it is seasoned salt, right? So we're just going to season the salt. So I don't use this very often, so I'm making a very small batch of it, but I actually need it for a recipe for our next video. So I thought, you know, let me go ahead and make some of this up. So I added 2 tablespoons of salt, and now I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of paprika, and I'm going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. And I know I'm measuring with this end and that end. I'm mixing so much stuff up. I'm trying to, you know, use what I have out and not mess up any more than I have to. Then you're going to add in a teaspoon of onion powder. And then we're going to add in a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then the last thing that we're going to add in here is 1 teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric. Take your pick. We're adding it in here. Whatever it is, however you say it, we're adding it in here. So then you're just going to go ahead and mix that up. And like I said, this just makes a very small amount, but I already had those containers out, so I did go ahead and just dump those into the same size container, even though it would have definitely fit into a much smaller container. Lord, somebody send help. I'm falling apart over here. Anyway, now we have a little bit of seasoned salt for the recipe that we got coming up. So that's it, our little seasoned salt. So the next one that we are doing is beef stew seasoning. So I like to put this, obviously, if you're making beef stew, or if you're just making some sort of beef soup or anything, you'll have all of this right there together. So what you're going to need for this one is 1 cup of flour. I'm just using plain old regular all-purpose flour. Use whatever flour you have, okay? It'll be fine. So then we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of diced onions. Not diced onions, onion powder. Where is my brain? That is not a diced onion. Y'all, don't listen to me. Just read the recipe down in the description box, because clearly I have no idea what I'm talking about. 1 cup of flour, 3 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. Oh my goodness, y'all. I need y'all to somebody come over here and edit these videos for me, because apparently I am not doing a good job. All right, so then 2 tablespoons of paprika. You know, if you spill a little, it'll be fine. So 2 tablespoons of that. And I did not do the smoked paprika on this one. I just did the regular because I didn't want the extra smoky flavor in this particular seasoning blend. So adjust yours however you want to. So now I'm adding in some beef bouillon, and again, use whatever brand you like. Any kind of beef bouillon will work. You're going to put 3 tablespoons of that in there. Then we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of celery seed. I know this seems like a lot, but this is not just one batch. This is going to be a couple of batches. You know, I mean, a couple of different times you can use this. So then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of basil. Then you're going to add in a tablespoon of parsley. And then we're going to add in a tablespoon of salt. Again, you can adjust that to your taste. We are putting bouillon in here, which is, you know, kind of salty. So just adjust it to whatever works for you, okay? Just do it ever how you want to. And if I know somebody, bless y'all's heart, somebody is going to say, well, it's better to use fresh herbs, but if you're storing something long term like this, you can't use fresh herbs. You have to use the dried stuff. So that's why I'm using the dried herbs, if that is a question anybody had. So then I added in 2 teaspoons of oregano, and I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of black pepper. Then I'm going to add in, y'all know thyme is not my favorite, but I do like a little touch of it every now and then. So I'm going to add in about a ½ teaspoon of thyme to the mix. And then we're going to add in some cayenne pepper. Again, if you don't do cayenne, you can leave this out. If you want more, you can absolutely add more. I'm adding in a ½ teaspoon of that, okay? So then we're going to mix this up really, really good. And if there's an herb that you don't like, don't add it in there. If you'd rather have rosemary, then add rosemary. Adjust it to however you want to. I'm just showing you how I make mine, and I think it's delicious this way, so that's why I mix it up this way. And I'm just trying to share it with y'all. It'll at least give you a jumping off point if you decide you want to make your own. So I got this jar out because, again, my 2-cup jars are, you know, they were gone as gifts, and I thought I'll put it in here, and then I thought there's way too much space still in there, so I went and added it to this little 2-cup plastic container that I had and stuck my label on, and now we have beef stew mix. Y'all, these are super simple to throw together. The majority of these ingredients you probably already have at your house, and these taste so much better than the store-bought stuff. So hopefully y'all will enjoy making these. So that is all for the first 6. Now we're going to get into the older video I made with the last 4 delicious seasoning blends that I know y'all are going to love. Okay? Okay, first up, we are doing onion soup mix. So I use onion soup mix a lot in my cooking. I use it in crock-pot recipes and all the things. So I knew that this was one thing that I wanted to be able to make myself just to save a little bit of money, and I know exactly what's going into my mix. And you can adjust this a little bit if you like some flavors more than others, you know? So win-win for me. Okay, so what I'm putting in here is 1 cup of minced onion flakes, and the majority of the seasonings I'm using, y'all, are just the Walmart brand, so use whatever you want. Doesn't have to be expensive. Next thing I'm adding in is a ½ cup of this granulated beef bouillon. This makes it taste so good, but do remember that this is salty, so when you get ready to add your salt, you can just kind of adjust it to your taste so you don't end up with a lot salty, I guess. So the next thing I'm adding in is 2 teaspoons of onion powder. Then we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. And make sure that you're doing garlic powder, not garlic salt. We do a recipe in a minute with garlic salt, but for this one, it is garlic powder. Then you're going to add in 2 teaspoons of parsley. And don't worry about trying to write all this down or anything. I'm going to write these out in the description box of the video so you'll have everything. Then you're going to add in here 1 teaspoon of paprika. And then this was an ingredient I wasn't real sure of, but when I was trying to figure out what recipe I wanted to use, every recipe had celery seed in it. So I knew I was going to need to add that. I add 1 teaspoon of that, but the majority of these seasoning blends like this, I just kind of customize it to what I like. So this is what I like. So then I added in a teaspoon of black pepper, and then I mix this up, give it just a little taste, you know, kind of taste the powdery part. And if you need to add salt, add it. If you don't feel like it needs salt, then you certainly don't have to add any extra salt to it. So that's it. You mix it up really, really good. And then we're going to put this in some airtight containers. I'm just using some jars I had around the house, and I'm using this jar funnel. It's so easy. And then you have onion soup mix anytime you need it. Next up, we're going to make some ranch seasoning. This is another seasoning that I use a lot. I obviously use a lot of other seasoning blends in my cooking, but I tried to find the ones I use most frequently, and those are the ones that I put in this video. And I do have some others like taco seasoning that I didn't make in this video, only because I have a big container right now and I'm trying to work through that. But at some point I'll be making my own taco seasoning as well. So, but this is our ranch seasoning. I added in 8 teaspoons of garlic powder, and I'm adding in 4 teaspoons of onion powder. And this recipe, when I came across it, the measurements, I just doubled everything because I knew this was something I was going to use a lot. So I was like, I might as well make a big batch of it now, and that way I'll have it. I won't have to make more in a minute, you know. So I added in 3 teaspoons of parsley, and I'm going to add in 3 teaspoons of this dried dill. I have never really cooked a whole lot with dill, and I used it in a recipe not too long ago in the dill pickle salad recipe, and it is so good, y'all. I don't know why I haven't been using this, so get you some dill if you hadn't ever tried it. So then I'm going to add in 3 heaping teaspoons of chives. Now I like more of an oniony flavor, which is why I did the bigger, you know, heaping teaspoons. But do it to taste however much you like. Then I added in 2 teaspoons of salt. And then the last part of this, we're going to add in a 1/2 cup of buttermilk powder, powdered buttermilk, okay? I got this at Walmart. It's super cheap, y'all, so don't think it's going to cost a lot of money. And then you're just going to dump your 1/2 cup in there. You're going to mix this up really, really good, just like with our other one. And then we're going to put this in a storage container, and we're going to have ranch seasoning anytime we need it. Now, like I said, I use ranch seasoning a lot. Number one, ranch dressing is my favorite dressing, and you can use this as the base of your dressing, or you can use this in recipes. I use ranch dressing in my taco soup, and when you make like a Mississippi pot roast or whatever, it calls for ranch seasoning. You can use your very own homemade ranch seasoning rather than having to buy the packets, and you know exactly what goes into it, and you know exactly how it's going to taste, and you can adjust that if you like a little more of this flavor or that. Seal it up and you are good to go. So the next seasoning blend that we're going to make is Italian. Now, I don't use this real often, so I made a small batch of this, but if you use a lot more of this, then you certainly can make a bigger batch. I'm going to put all the measurements down in the description box for y'all. All the recipes will be down there. So for this one, what I'm using is 2 tablespoons of oregano. And then I am going to use, now in this one, we are using garlic salt, okay? So we're going to do a tablespoon of garlic salt. Then we're going to do a tablespoon of sugar. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of onion powder. And like I said, you can half this, double it, triple it, whatever you need to do for the amount that you need. We're going to add a tablespoon of parsley flakes. And I just had about that much left in there, so I just dumped it in there. And then you're going to add in a teaspoon of black pepper. And then I add just a little sprinkling of just some regular old Italian seasoning. I just kind of sprinkle that in there just to get that little bit of extra taste. you know, just in case I needed it. So I just mix it up really, really good, and I had a little tiny jar, and I put this in my little bitty jar, and then I just stick it over to the side, put it in my cabinet, in my pantry, in my spice cabinet, whatever you have, and then that way you have Italian dressing seasoning mix anytime you want to. You can make Italian dressing, or you can just use this in recipes, whatever you would need those flavors for, okay? So last but certainly not least, I'm going to add in my rib rub. Now I know you've seen both of my rib videos have this recipe in there, but I wanted to add it here so it's all in one place. So I'm adding in here a cup, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of onion powder. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, and then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of Tony's Creole seasoning. You can use whatever kind of Creole seasoning you like. This just gives it a yummy little kick. But it's not super spicy, so don't worry about that. Then you're going to add in 3 teaspoons of black pepper. And we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt. And then we're going to add 5 teaspoons of paprika. I know that seems like a lot, but trust me. And if you have the smoked paprika, that would be really good too, but all I had was regular. So 5 teaspoons of that. Then you're going to add in a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. And we're going to add, last of all, a 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder. And that's it. That is my rib rub. If you need a good rib rub, I say this in my other videos too. If you need a good rib rub, you need to try this one because it is delicious. And it makes a good bit. So this, what I make in this amount, is not, you're going to have leftover. If you're just making like 2 slabs of ribs or something, you'll have plenty left over. So like I said, I will make sure that all of the recipes are down in the description box for y'all. All right, so that is our last 4 seasoning blends for this video. Y'all, my pantry is so full of homemade stuff. Like, I have really, I know I say this every video, but I've really been loving doing all the homemade things. I'm enjoying doing like the homemade meals, but also now we have all these yummy homemade seasoning blends. So you really are going to know what's going into your food, you know, and we'll be making more in the future. If there's something I didn't make in this video that you really want to see, let me know down in the comments because I can add it to my list. And maybe in a future video, we will add some more seasoning blends if that is something that y'all want to see. But these are all so delicious. And like I said, I made the ones that I use a lot around my house, but I know not everybody uses these, but at least if you can use a few of these, then that's just one step closer to getting rid of all that processed stuff that we don't need anyway, right? So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. That is all I have for y'all today, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.